Let's open up for opening statement. So, Mr. Thomas, you're the first one to have an opening statement.
Thank you, and thank you, Fleetwood Citizens Association and my colleagues here that are candidates for mayor also for joining us, and thank you to all the voters that are here tonight and everybody out there that supported Richard Thomas for mayor in the Democratic primary. As you know, I was born and raised in Mount Vernon. I went to all public schools. I earned a full academic scholarship to NYU. I'm back at NYU Stern right now, finishing my executive MBA in finance and strategy, and I've been, using the new skills I've been developing to make sure that since we won this primary and as your council member, I've been looking very closely at a lot of the things that are in our budget, things and decisions that are being made right now, some this morning that are, in my opinion, bad policy decisions. So I'm asking for your vote on Tuesday, November 3rd, because I believe in Mount Vernon. I believe we can be great again if we make better decisions. I believe we can have fair and equitable living here in this city. Our seniors can be protected from fraud. Our young people can have an affordable place to live that's also quality. And we can also have roads that are surfaced on a routine basis, and we don't have to dip and dodge potholes, not just in the streets, but also our sidewalks. I met with, and I continue to meet frequently with our members in the DPW, fire, police, and I'm going through each department with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that our workforce, among the best in the region, have not been supported as much as they can based on the decisions that have been made. So as your council member, but also hopefully as your next mayor, I look forward to putting together a plan that is not only going to hold the line on taxes, but is also going to make a big difference for our families and businesses to grow and thrive in our city. My name is Richard Thomas. I'm running for mayor. I thank you for your vote in the Democratic primary, but I'm looking to work with everyone, even my colleagues here today, so we can make one Mount Vernon. Thank you.
Good evening. I also would like to thank the Fleetwood Citizen Society for allowing us to come to this debate for the general election. My name is Deborah Reynolds. I'm a councilwoman currently for the city of Mount Vernon. I have fought for the past 4 years for your quality of life, to lower your taxes. I have lowered your taxes in 2012 when I came in office from 10% to 6.15% in just a few days. As your mayor, the first thing I would do as mayor is reduce your taxes. I believe the residents of Mount Vernon deserve better. They deserve lower taxes. At departments that work within City Hall, they deserve a quality of life where people can't infringe upon it, like development we currently have coming into the city. The people of Mount Vernon decided that they didn't want development that would infringe upon their quality of life. The council members that currently sit on the council decided that that's not what they wanted. They wanted different. They decided not to work with the people who live here. They decided to work with the developers. That is something that I will not do as mayor. The people are the top of my priority. I believe in your quality of life. Lower taxes. We need to fix our deteriorated infrastructure and conform to what we currently have. Our children need a movie theater, a bowling alley, a skating rink, family-oriented facilities and things like that, such as restaurants, things that people can participate and have peer interaction with our students. Funding that comes into Mount Vernon is misappropriated currently in the city of Mount Vernon. We need to stop the abuse and mismanagement of our taxpayers' dollars, and that's top of my priority when I come in as mayor. We need to work together as a community and do it right this time. The general election is approaching November 3rd. I am here to benefit the people of Mount Vernon. Please come out and support me on November 3rd. I will provide you the quality of life that you deserve. I have the experience to do so. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you also to the Society for conducting this forum. It was interesting that the numbers of calls that I got today when I posted it on Facebook to announce it, because I thought that a broader community ought to be here than that which had been invited. So I thank all of you who came out tonight and thought that it was important for you to be able to hear the people who are running for mayor to represent you in this city. My name is Ruth Haskell Thompson, as you've heard. I'm your state senator, serving in my 16th year in the state senate. I served for 7 years on the city council. It's very interesting that people talk about being in power or out of power. Power is the power that comes from the people in the community. If you get the people behind you, you can make anything happen. I've heard too many excuses that are made in this city that I can't get anything done. Well, we've seen 16 years that nothing has happened. We cannot continue to let these kinds of issues continue to be the hallmark of who we are. We are the mockery of the world. People watch this debate across the country, and all we did was argue and fight. We are better than that. We can do better. We are a city that has produced more talent, more geniuses that are across this country doing other things in other places. They're not here. They're not here because their taxes are too high. They can't afford to educate their children because our school system is failing them. I am saying to you as a person with experience and knowledge, on November 3rd, you have the opportunity to make an experienced choice of someone who is not just in front of the camera when it's propitious, but who has been there on the ground and will continue to be there for you. Thank you.
Please advise the audience as to your top 3 priorities to move the city of Mount Vernon forward during the next mayoral term.
The top 3 priorities first thing is to lower the taxes. Our taxes are too high in the city of Mount Vernon. There are over 400 homes in foreclosure currently, so that is the top of my agenda. To fix our deteriorated infrastructure and conform to what we currently have today. Mount Vernon's infrastructure has been falling apart for years, decades, and there has been nothing in place to fix it. Actually, we're having things done now that's deteriorating more because of the pipelines and water lines that are going through currently. We have a lot of work to do in Mount Vernon, so that is a second priority, is to fix our deteriorated infrastructure and city-owned properties that are dilapidated right now in the city. The third thing is to provide working departments within City Hall. Right now, our departments are dysfunctional. People are not getting the services that they need. The building department, they're not getting their permits. The garbage department, they're saying their trash is not picked up on time or is being left on the curb. Trash is being left on the roads as they go by. Glass is broken. A lot of things like that. Working departments within City Hall is what the taxpayers are paying for. They pay for a quality of life that they deserve, and that's what they should have within City Hall. So the top 3 of my priorities is to lower the taxes, number 1, to fix our deteriorated infrastructure, number 2, and to provide services in working departments within City Hall. Thank you.
I know you'd like to hear that my top priority would be to lower your taxes. We cannot. We cannot. But we can better utilize the taxes that people pay in this city. Anyone who promises you that they can lower the taxes really don't understand the needs of this community. Only a small portion of taxes that are collected actually go into the expenditures of services that are delivered. So every time you lower the taxes, you get fewer services. And the quality of the service that you receive is ridiculous. My first priority would be to reorganize government and to ensure that people, and be sure that in the hiring practices and even of those that are there, retrain people so that they understand the needs of the people of this community. This is a changing community, and we're trying to serve people as though we're back in the 50s and 60s. And people want nostalgia of the good old days. Well, they weren't so good. They weren't so good because people who look like me were not in charge. They were not able to work. We had to sue our fire departments in order to bring people of color onto the board. So no, I don't want the good old days. But what I do want is respect and dignity that we used to know in this city. I want to restore the reputation of this community so that people want to do business here. Yes, we can attract big developers who want to build and go, but we need to build solid businesses. We need to restore the trust of the people who already work for us and work in the communities. I walk up and down these streets, talk to business people on a regular basis, and I've been responsible in the state to make sure that economic development comes to this city. And there is money that is available, but nobody wants to invest in Mount Vernon, not even state government, because we haven't used our money properly. We don't have Section 8. We can't get Section 8 vouchers for the needy people in our community because we've mismanaged. We have to restore the trust. Number one, restore the trust. Restore the reputation of Mount Vernon so that people will want to do business at every level in government. And certainly, in that process, your taxes will feel as though they're lowered because you'll be getting something for the money that you're expending. The other thing is reorganizing, particularly our police department and the way we do policing. We talk about the crime in our communities, and other communities have had equal, if not greater, numbers of crimes, but they've solved their problems. You solve your problems by working together, and everybody in the community becomes a part of the policing of your neighborhoods and communities. Thank you.
So, Mount Vernon, we know, has a diverse set of challenges. And one of my top 3 priorities will address the long-term issues we've been facing. First and foremost, the school district is our biggest liability. It chases people away from our community. It puts many young families and even empty nesters on a very tight plan to try and either sell their home, many of which at a loss. It brings down property values because their taxes are incredibly high and their performance is low. But we have a new management team in the school district that has a very good plan. And trust is not restored, you have to earn it. So I'm looking to partner with the school district to make sure that they continue to earn our trust, and I'm going to hold them accountable to the decisions that they make, so we have schools of excellence to create a pipeline for our kids to have a safe place to go and also a place to learn and also get a job when they get out of school. Many of our kids are not going to go to college, but those that do, we can make sure they're better prepared. And as a school district being our biggest liability, my belief is, as an executive, if we're going to turn around our city, we have to turn our liabilities into productive assets. So that's also job one, and I've been talking to the school district, including making a request for them to restore bus service for our kids. It is a shame that many of our kids have to walk across town to get to and from school or after school programs. The second part is jobs. We're not going to get jobs in this city if we don't support our small businesses. So I'm going to establish an Office of Economic Development that's going to be around the clock, open in full service for our small businesses when they operate, so they can have access to the resources, be it state, federal, or county. But most importantly is safety. There is money in the budget now to hire more firefighters. There's money in the budget to hire more police. A couple weeks ago, I had a press conference, a roundtable, where I showed approximately $1 million was taken away from our first responders. And these are things that contribute to higher fire insurance costs. These are decisions that make the public less safe. So I'm going to use the resources we have to make Mount Vernon more safe. And that includes making better decisions for our infrastructure. That includes making better decisions to ensure that we are all aware of the opportunities to make sure that our police have the backing and support of City Hall. And tomorrow, I'm announcing an initiative in collaboration with the PBA, who endorsed Richard Thomas for mayor because they believe I have the best plan to keep Mount Vernon safe, is that we are going to raise approximately $50,000 to ensure they have body cameras and new bulletproof vests. And we have a commitment already to from a few businesses who are going to partner with us to provide $25,000 already. So these are the things that we can do through partnership to make Mount Vernon safe, create jobs, and make sure our schools become an asset again.
There are a number of vacant storefronts and houses in Mount Vernon which, if occupied, could provide a lifestyle improvement and a source of revenue for the city. How would you encourage or incent landlords or prospective homeowners to fill those vacant homes and retail spaces? Ms. Thompson?
Thank you, Mr. Plante. Before going to the state, one of the boards that I served on was a board that gave seed money for development of housing. And housing was something that I spent a lot of time working on. And when I served on the city council, worked with the then building commissioner to identify all of the vacant houses in the city of Mount Vernon. We have a lot of veterans who are homeless. And there are veteran programs that I'm in the process of designing in other communities in the Bronx to look at how do we ensure that their lifestyles are significantly improved. We had the opportunity to have several different programs in the city, and for whatever reason, they've been rejected. But those of you who watch Golden Girls, you know there's something called the Golden Girls, and the whole story of Golden Girls is how seniors who come to a certain phase of their life cannot afford to keep their homes. We have a lot of housing, and we have a lot of seniors who would not like to go from a big house into a studio apartment. They need more space. And there are Golden Girl projects out there for which I am already affiliated. One of the things about working in the state, you get to see across the state programs that are in existence and are working well. We have over 1,000 houses, and we keep talking about them as being zombie. Well, they're not all zombie, because there's a very specific definition of what zombie houses are. And those are houses that we can still work with banks to ensure that people don't lose their homes. In my office every day, we have people who are coming in who are in the process or in the last stages of their houses being taken, and they have no other options and choices. Our city has a planning department, a building department. None of those departments work together. They don't work with the comptroller to see what is it that we can be doing to put some of these vacant houses back on the market. These are things that other communities, Brooklyn, who is now one of the fastest growing, most expensive communities to live in, has done this and done it successfully. What is wrong with Mount Vernon in 4.2 square miles that we cannot begin to address the issue of our seniors and our young couples that want to stay in this community with all of this housing stock that we have that is not building our tax base? We keep talking about what that tax base is, but as long as these houses stay off the tax rolls, those are millions of dollars that we are losing every day, every year, because those houses are not productive. And we need to turn them into assets for our veterans as well as for our senior living. There are projects out there. We can do them together.
So there was a study by the city of Mount Vernon that essentially pointed to 30% vacancy rate of our storefronts here in the city of Mount Vernon, going, just to give you perspective, between the Circle at, Gramerton Avenue, which now we saw the loss of Sal's Deli due to, a fire that started in a deli and spread to take the entire block. And that seems to be a pattern in Mount Vernon, which is not good, by the way. If there's a fire in a storefront, it shouldn't take down the whole block. I mean, that's something that just, it speaks to why public safety is very important. Because if you have a business, you have to make sure that your business has the security of being able to operate and even put out fires, but I digress. The point is, we also have an IDA to support our small businesses. And if we fill our storefronts, and if we fulfill our word for some of these small businesses that completed some applications for grants from the city to redo their facades. I know many businesses have been left wondering if they're going to get reimbursed. If we just fulfill our word and give them the money that the programs we have already in existence from the city, we can fill more storefronts and create an additional $200 million in economic activity here in the city of Mount Vernon. That would translate into approximately $15 million in tax revenue for the city. That would stop the growth of taxes right away and create an additional set of resources that we can use to make sure our city is safer. One of the things that I would make sure we have is a mayor's task force, and modeled after what Joe Delfino did in White Plains, how he made all his top leaders plus their subordinates come around the table when major projects came in to everybody coordinate on the critical tasks to ensure that the city moved at the speed of capital, the city moved at the speed of the needs of the business, because the faster we support our businesses, the faster we can see jobs come back. So there's a definitive relationship between making sure the city is better run, and as you know, hopefully your next mayor, I'll be that executive that will get down in the trenches and work with our various agencies to ensure that the business community has the full support of Richard Thomas as your next mayor, but also bringing the expertise and the relationships from the energy industry, having worked very closely with Con Edison, and I'll talk about some of my plans to make sure they resurface our roads curb to curb. You know, this patchwork that they're doing is just unacceptable, but having the expertise and the skill sets, leveraging, you know, skills in finance and making sure the city utilizes the resources it has, we can create additional tax revenue to create jobs in our city.
I'm going to provide some real dialogue here. We have 400 homes, over 400 homes currently in foreclosure in the city of Mount Vernon. Ruth Thompson says taxes can't be reduced. She only says that because she can't reduce them. Yet Ruth Thompson stated in our last debate that she voted in the Senate for the tax cap. Now, if she voted for the tax cap, why would it be good for the Senate and not good for Mount Vernon? We need a break here. People are not losing their homes due to banks. They're losing them due to high taxes. It's continuing over and over again, daily, weekly. People are still losing their homes. When are we going to stand up and stop talking and do something about it? Councilman Thomas says at his roundtable that I saw on television that we're going to refinance bonds. Refinance bonds would only make you pay more in the long run. We cannot refinance bonds. He's not a financial person, and he never contributed to a city budget when I reduced it. He only attributed to Mayor Davis' agenda in increasing the taxes year after year. We can no longer sit around here and play games. The city of Mount Vernon is in dire straits. We need an individual that has experience, such as myself, to run this city. The games are over in Mount Vernon. We've already gotten rid of a mayor that increased the taxes, that has let this city deteriorate. It's time to fix this city, not play games with friends and associates. It's about saving lives. Mount Vernon needs to be fixed. Mount Vernon needs to be healed. The healing has to come in Mount Vernon. I am the person to bring that. I have the financial experience and from the corporate world to reduce our taxes, such as I have done in 2012. The business development experience to fix our deteriorated infrastructure. I'm not talking about bringing in high-rise development like these individuals that sit here with me. I'm talking about conforming to what we currently have. If developers want to come into the city of Mount Vernon, they have to pay their fair share of taxes like we do. We pay. We cannot afford to bring in more high-rise buildings that bring in more people, more school children that we cannot take care of, that we have a failing school system today. Listen, I have gone into the school systems. I have taught ELA programs to our third graders so that they could pass. I have received awards for doing that. I have attributed to the track and field of Mount Vernon as a person who went to the high school. I have won medals so that children can aspire for greatness, to do great things, not just sit here and work for other people. We are not here to work for developers, we're here to work for the people, and that's what I bring to the city of Mount Vernon.
Mount Vernon property taxes are among the highest in Westchester County, especially as it relates to the services offered to residents. What's your plan to bring relief to Mount Vernon taxpayers without reducing services?
So, you know, it was stated that I contributed to high taxes. I don't necessarily agree with that. But what I can point out is if you do refinance a bond at a lower rate, you know, if we're paying 5% and you refinance to 2%, I mean 3% savings, you save money. So that's something we can do today to create $650,000 in savings, and that money can go a long way toward making sure our police officers have bulletproof vests that will keep them safe. It can go a long way toward paying for other things that we need in our community. But when it comes to controlling the runaway taxes, again, the school district we know is the biggest challenge. And if we work with the school district and hold them accountable for the decisions they're making, we may be able to stop them from raising our taxes without, with impunity. But from the city standpoint, without impacting services, again, when we make bad decisions like using bond money at Memorial Field for projects or things that don't really belong at Memorial Field, that's a big problem. We're going to lose the trust and confidence of the county, which gave us money to use. When we make decisions that redirect resources away from emergency services like police and fire, or we take money away from the planning department, which is working to bring more resources into the city from an economic standpoint, you're going to create a scenario that makes Mount Vernon fall further and further backwards. So as mayor, I'm going to make sure we use what we have right now and do my best to make sure that the resources we do have are used efficiently. We have the people that are accountable for the decisions, like the commissioners and their subordinates, coordinating with each other on a weekly, daily basis to make sure we move at the speed of capital. And when you look very closely at the opportunities Mount Vernon has, we have the best location in all the region. We have among the best transportation options. So these are things that we can leverage. So long as we do some basic things very good, we can add up to a much bigger success later on. But we have a lot of basic stuff that we have to address, including our infrastructure. So it's all about management, and when you make sure that you address the major problems like the school district, you hold folks accountable in your own administration, and you make decisions that don't include, not giving crony contracts out to relatives, I think that's something that we can do away with and put the resources to a higher and better use.
First of all, I would stop the reckless spending in Mount Vernon. In order to reduce the taxes in Mount Vernon and to help the people that are actually in trouble and that want a vacation, that want a savings, that want to fix their houses, is to reduce the budget. The mayor actually works the budget. He actually creates the budget when he's in office. The budget is actually, how do I say this? It's filled with mismanagement. I don't want to say a terrible word, but I want to say mismanagement. It's the best thing I could say. We have money sitting in lines that are not used. We have money that's sitting there that should be used, but it's used for the wrong things, let me say it like that. And when I came in 2012, I found that we had a pool director, there's no YMCA. How are you paying $100,000 to a pool director when we don't have one? Our revenues are always overstated. There's a problem with our budget. In order to reduce the taxes, you have to be a creative financial person that is willing to help the people by reducing the budget, cutting away the fat that sits there. It doesn't make any sense to say you're going to bring in development, because they come with pilot programs. That's not going to reduce the taxes for the people that are here. You can't say you're going to bring in economic development, because nobody wants to come to Mount Vernon with the high taxes we currently have. No one's coming in here. We have to work together as a community. I, as your mayor, need to reduce the existing budget that is over $100 million. We're rich. Mount Vernon is rich. We're giving the current mayor over $100 million for what? Where are our services? Why isn't our streets paved? What is happening? Why is our infrastructure deteriorating? Why are people paying so much in taxes? Where is our money going? It's being squandered. It's being misappropriated, and people are being abused in the city of Mount Vernon. And in order to stop the abuse, I'm asking you to vote for me, Deborah Reynolds. I am a Democrat, but I will be running on the conservative line. A lot of people didn't want me here. They didn't want me running to help people in Mount Vernon, but I'm here. I'm here. And I'm going to do my best with the people that want to elect me to win. Mount Vernon has a last opportunity here. I am standing tall for the people of Mount Vernon. Mount Vernon needs my financial help. We need to reduce the taxes. Thank you.
We have talked around the issues of property taxes tonight, but the reality is this: the will to reduce taxes are not here in this city. Our councilwoman talked about the fact that the state had a 2% cap. Not only did I vote for it, but I helped to push it through the Senate. And it didn't make a lot of people happy. Teachers and some others thought that the cap was going to be difficult. When we examined the impact, there were things that we did about it. But let me go, I get ahead of the story. We had a $10 billion deficit in the state of New York. Today, we don't have a deficit, we have a surplus. And our surplus is real. It's not like the surplus we hear about in Mount Vernon that really is not a surplus. How did we do that? We did it by a zero budget. Instead of taking everybody's agency budgets and all of these lines that are not filled and creating a budget based upon what you think you should get as an increase. When you do a zero-based budget, you do it predicated on starting with nothing and building on what you have to have. And in that process, we were able to impose a 2% tax on the state. Now, it's very interesting that two of my colleagues sit here who, in the last 4 years, Mount Vernon has increased its taxes by 30%. And they have chosen, in the 2 years that the 2% tax cap has been in place, they have chosen to override it. So that when we impose the cap, one of the things that we were able to do was to put more money in the education budget. And if you remember, this year, you were able to vote on that budget the first round because there were no increases by the school district. And that was one of the problems that we recognized. So we increased state budgets across the state by $1.6 billion. And Mount Vernon got its share. Trust me when I tell you, it got its share. And so for the first time, we were able to keep the school budget, which continues to get blamed, below its level. So if they voted to override, don't blame it on the school, blame it on the way in which the city was managed by the people who were in charge.
The question is this: violent crimes, including murders, in our city are increasing at an alarming rate. What do you see as the major reasons for the increase, and what solutions do you propose, and please be specific, to protect citizens and reverse this dangerous trend?
Yes, I see the issue is not having our streetwalkers on our streets. There's not many police officers on our streets today, and I don't know why that is. They're monitoring water pipes and gas lines, and that's what they shouldn't be doing. The current mayor is allowing our police officers not to do their jobs. It's not that they don't want to do their jobs. They're put on another job. I don't blame the officers, I blame the administration. As your mayor, I would make sure our police officers are on the street. Make sure that our neighborhoods are safe. If there's any crime in any area, it needs to be taken care of. If any laws are broken, they need to, deal with their punishment. We can't have that in the city of Mount Vernon. We want to live good. I've been here all my life. Why can't we live good? I grew up in the 80s. Look at today. Look at what we have today in Mount Vernon. We're the laughingstock of Westchester County. People are shooting on the street in broad daylight. Our seniors cannot come out and enjoy themselves. Why is this happening? Safety is not there. I'm even looking at now, we have more mentally ill and homeless roaming the streets of Mount Vernon. They need to be in a place where they're even safe. We don't have those facilities. So safety in Mount Vernon right now is no good. Is no good. I don't feel safe going out myself. So as your mayor, I would make sure we have programs for the mentally ill and homeless that exist here, but we don't need any more. Why are we the dumping ground of Westchester County? We can't have that. The people that are committing crimes need to be taken care of by our police officers. They will not be watching the pipes and the gas lines. They will be doing their jobs as they want to do in the city of Mount Vernon. And I want to go back to what Senator Thompson said, which was incorrect. If you were a legislator in the city of Mount Vernon, you would know for over the past 4 years, I voted for the tax cap. I also said that I reduced the budget in 2012 from 10% to 615. That's what I do for the people of Mount Vernon. I don't work for the Bronx. I work for Mount Vernon residents. I'm here for the people that are here. You want lower taxes, I can bring it. You want a better community, I can bring it. You want a safe community, I will deliver for the people that live here. I am a Mount Vernon person. I'm a Mount Vernonite. I went to the schools. My family has been raised here. I have a husband that's here this evening. I love Mount Vernon. And Mount Vernon is my home, and it will continue to be so as mayor. Thank you.
Ms. Thompson? You're up. Did you want me to reread the question?
Yes, please, after that. I apologize. Yes, thank you.
Violent crimes, including murders, in our city are increasing at an alarming rate. What do you see as the major reasons for this increase, and what solutions do you propose, and please be specific, to protect the citizens and reverse this dangerous trend?
I said earlier, one of my main objectives was to change the way we do policing in the city of Mount Vernon. We're one of the few cities who has not adopted a community policing concept, and it works. This city has received, over the last 6 years, close to $250,000 in SNUG initiative money. And for those of you who may not know what SNUG and GIVE are, those are state-funded programs that I was responsible for bringing to this city. And I heard one of our former candidates talk about how the crime was lowered during that period. Well, that was because we had those initiatives in the street. It means that people are working with gangs and trying to reduce the kind of crime that's here. But it's a cooperative effort that has to include our police department and our community as a whole. Yes, we need to have foot patrol, but we need to have it as a coordinated effort. Just having police in the street is not the answer. Policing is a lot more sophisticated than that today. But it also requires that our community be engaged. Community watch is a major factor. And it wouldn't matter if you had 5,000 police officers in a city of 67,000 people and growing. They cannot be everywhere. But we as a community can be everywhere. And when you employ community policing, it involves everyone in that aspect. It does require that police be on the street. But more than that, it also works with all of the agencies and programs that are already in existence in this city. We work in isolation. Everything is like a cell. You do what you do here, you do what you do here, but none of this is coordinated in the best effort of our community. And it's part of the reason that we spend an inordinate amount of money on programs that don't seem to make an impact or change because there's no real coordination. We talk about being managers. Well, the city it needs to hire managers, but it needs to be led. There is no leadership in the community, and people think that you need to go to the departments and tell the department people what to do. Well, if you hire people who are competent, you don't have to watch over their shoulders. You can provide the leadership and the guidance and the direction that comes from the people in terms of what they want to see a city become. Thank you.
Yes, competence, not cronyism, will be a major factor in the Thomas administration. And, as your next mayor, what I can tell you is, again, God willing, I earn your vote on November 3rd. The plan to lower crime and engage violent crime can be done in a range of very simple ways. First, we have to support our police officers. We have to listen to them. And when we listen to them, we can inform ourselves of some of the issues that may not make it all the way to the top. So we have to start by listening. And in listening to our police officers, I've learned that they want body cameras. They want bulletproof vests so they feel safe. They want cars that have four-wheel drive. I mean, we need four-wheel drive in the summertime because of the potholes, but we need four-wheel drive when the weather gets inclement so they can get around town and respond to emergencies. So tomorrow we are announcing an initiative where we're going to ensure that we're going to partner with our stakeholders in business from around town and raise money to ensure that our officers are safe, and we provide them with the resources that are already in the budget, not take away money from our police officers. For example, $300,000 was transferred away from them. These are things that we should not be doing. Training is a major item that we have to invest in. And again, you're right, we need quality, competent people to make sure that training is always happening. It's something that our HR commissioner should be doing in collaboration with our police and fire departments to ensure that they're up to date in all the best tasks. And when you think about, the new types of cars, the accidents that occur, be it with electric cars, the lithium-ion batteries, the acid, these are things that contribute to safety. While it is violent crime that you're talking about, we also have to make sure that we get the right intelligence and we use data to drive our decision-making. So when a sex offender moves into our community, they need to be greeted. While they may have some contact with their parole officers or whatever state-related responsibility they may have, the city needs to play some offense and make sure that we have some form of engagement to make sure that we're not overwhelming them, but we are engaging them to make sure that they know that we want to keep the community safe, and we hope they are on a path to rehabilitate. But also, we want to make sure that those repeat offenders, those that have, been trafficking guns and dealing drugs, we take a hard stand against that. It's not rocket science to have foot patrol on top of a coordinated effort to engage those that are committing the crimes. And the last bit, 2 more bits, school resource officer, want to bring those back into the schools to engage the gangs, and also want to make sure we have a domestic violence unit to address those suffering in silence.
Thank you. Currently, we have an undermanned and ill-equipped fire department, which is inadequate to keep Mount Vernon safe. Explain how you would improve the operations of the fire department and fund this solution.
We've somewhat addressed that in our previous remarks, but there has to be an agreement about whether we do have a sufficient number of firefighters in order to be able to do that. I've heard so many different agreements and disagreements about whether we do or do not. The answer is, if we look at the numbers of fires, and again, let me go back for just a second. One of the reasons that our fires are so devastating, in part, is because we don't have nearly enough firefighters. But we also are looking at fires that happened in houses that were built in the 1920s and 30s. And the kind of fire safety walls that we would build today are not there. So those fires go totally out of control. In talking to the firefighters that fought this last fire, they were saying that with the tin in the roofs, they were not able to vent those fires. These are the kinds of fire hazards. I watched the devastation of 8 houses on my block on South 7th Avenue for the same reason. The fire started in one attic and just jumped across all of them because of the way they were built. We don't build them that way anymore. So part of the fire safety is really in the construction and the development. And that's where we really need to be ensured that the standard with which buildings and properties are being developed meet those fire safety standards, because that puts a lower risk on firefighters when they have to fight the fires. That's one piece. The other piece of it is we do have a lot of firefighters who are out ill or who are out sick. And we've had people who have said they're lazy and don't want to come to work. Well, I'm here to tell you that unless you have been in a fire and have fought these fires and know the incidences, the high incidences of accidents that happen to firefighters, you have no idea the risk that they experience every time they go into a fire. And they are trained. But even with the training inside of some of these buildings, because going back to the building department, do you know that there are records that are not available that allow you to even know the plans of those buildings, so that the egress is not visible when they get into those buildings? Sometimes they find themselves trapped. So yes, we've got a lot of things that we need to address. But the safety of our firefighters will be enhanced if we increase the number, but also if we make sure that the standards when our buildings are being done are adhered to.
First and foremost, I was endorsed by the Firefighters Union, and I was also endorsed by the Police Benevolent Association, representing our hard-working men and women in law enforcement here in Mount Vernon. But I intimately understand what the firefighters are going through. My brother's a firefighter. I am the only public official from the city of Mount Vernon that completed and participated in the Fire Ops 101 training a couple weeks ago. And unlike other communities like New Rochelle, Yonkers, White Plains, our firefighters, you have to think of them like the Marines. They have to carry more equipment. They have to do more work with less men. I carried fire hose on two shoulders, up 4 stories, and that's typically done by 2 people. Our firefighters do it with 1 person. Our firefighters have to carry a fire extinguisher on top of, other equipment, plus an axe and a Mulligan. Other companies have more people to do that. And yes, we can hire more firefighters. The money is already in the budget. Every year, the city council has allocated money to hire firefighters, and this administration decided not to hire 5 firefighters. Why? Because they probably allocated the money to something else. And based on 2014 numbers, $700,000 was taken from the salary line of our firefighters. Why? That could have gone a long way toward hiring more firefighters without creating more issues that we're talking about. But with respect to the structures, there's a built environment already. We're not going to go back and rebuild Mount Vernon completely, but what we can do is inform our building approach going forward, having safer approaches to making sure that the sprinkler systems are working, making sure we have a better understanding and up-to-date records. But being someone that's bringing a big data approach, when you look at the data, the things that our firefighters respond to, approximately 4,200 ambulance calls occurred between January and, today. Every time an ambulance goes out and responds, the $700, charge to the person receiving the service, not including all the other stuff that goes on. New Rochelle, White Plains, New York City, the ambulances come from the firehouse. Why? Because that money goes to the paramedics who are firefighters, and that money goes to the city from your insurance, your Medicaid, your Medicare. So as a business person, someone looking at this as a turnaround executive, if we were to do that ambulance response in-house, we can create an additional $3 million in revenue for the city by using the men that we have, staffing our fire department, and that would pay for itself, including hiring more firefighters, funding training, and making sure we have the resources we need to make Mount Vernon more safe.
I was advised that there were 40 firefighters at the fire that happened at Sal's Deli. 40 firefighters. It makes me wonder what we actually need to do if we have 40 firefighters at a fire and the whole block burns down. As your mayor, I would reassess what is actually happening within our fire departments. Because if we have 40 firemen, it doesn't matter how old the structure is, because Mount Vernon is an old city. We have a lot of old houses, and we don't want them burning down. So we have to assess, my team and I, what is currently going on that we cannot fight these fires if we have 40 people at the scene. We may need to provide new training, better training. We have to find out what we need to do to mitigate risk, because lives are at stake when there's a fire. And yes, these people were able to get out, but other people may not be able to. Safety is #1 priority when it comes to saving lives. You cannot just think that we're gonna hire, and we can't figure out what the problem is. Because I believe 40 people should be able to put out a fire. I just don't know what's going on that it didn't happen that way. But as your mayor, I would help provide that training so that we can assess what needs to be done besides bringing on people to mitigate the risk and to save lives in Mount Vernon. Thank you.
The image of the city of Mount Vernon has been tarnished over the past few years, in the press and as a result of corruption and tax evasion in City Hall. What would you do to regain the trust of the residents in the surrounding areas to improve the overall perception of the city? And would the appointment of an independent ethics board or inspector general appointed by a third party be an option? Mr. Thomas?
All right, so First and foremost, I just want to quickly respond to the 40 firefighter comment. I think it's important for everybody to know that approximately 7 firefighters were from Mount Vernon. The rest were from White Plains, Greenburgh, Pelham, and New Rochelle. And I think it's important that the distance that they have to travel to get here contributes to a fire burning faster, hotter, longer. And when you have synthetic material in your carpets and your walls, you have, again, all these materials that are made with synthetic oils, things burn faster. That's it. That's just a fact. So it's not our firefighters, it's a management issue that we have to truly engage. With respect to the image being tarnished, yes, we have to clean up City Hall, and these crony contracts have to stop. One was passed this morning for a roofer, someone that's going to monitor roofing between February and June. How do we even know the work is going to be needed in that time period? But yet, colleagues on the council, Deborah was not one of them, that voted for it. She was not one of them. I'm just pointing out that these crony contracts are costly. And misleading council members for their vote is something that can and must stop. The way you can do it is the council needs its own independent law counsel to assess and review the information that is coming before them. Deborah and I, Councilwoman Reynolds and I, have while we may have disagreed a lot, but we agree that there's a problem with transparency, and we agree that when we ask questions of this administration, they don't respond. And that's where the council needs its own representation to take action when the executive branch steps out of line. And that's something that, as mayor, I would support. I believe in conversation. I believe that through collaboration we can reach a much better decision. But as for the Inspector General, yes, we need that. Because when it comes to our ethics board, we have one, but the people on it, they're serving on expired terms. And we try to get people to serve. We had members resign because the council did not take action to address some of these ethical issues pertaining to crony contracts. Also the challenges you mentioned with respect to our current mayor and his legal woes. So at the end of the day, I'm going to make sure we earn trust and respect back by doing the work and making sure that we follow through on what we set out to do. The plan, I have an economic plan, I have a safety plan, and I have an approach that's collaborative, endorsed by a variety of groups, and I hope that as your next mayor, we'll work together to ensure that we work together to put our city back together, ethically.
You mentioned corruption in Mount Vernon. There is indeed corruption in Mount Vernon. Whenever a city of Mount Vernon bonds in excess of $750,000 for whatever it may be, let me use Memorial Field for example. Let's use Memorial Field for an example. Money was bonded in excess of $750,000. Yet the people didn't have anything to say. Their voices were taken away. That's corruption. Memorial Field is sitting there decaying because the people did not have a say. It reminds me of the 42 Broad Street project. Nothing to say. Bonding constantly over and over again without the people saying whether they want it or not. I heard my colleague, Councilman Thomas, say that I didn't vote for certain things. I didn't. I would not risk the people of Mount Vernon. Memorial Field is an icon. There was no reason for the city council, when I brought the referendum to the city council for the people to have a voice, to say no. Councilman Thomas was one of those people. The people didn't have a voice because he didn't allow them to. Over and over again, the water fountain that puts up water in the middle of the city of Mount Vernon that we're paying for. No referendum for the city of Mount Vernon. Other municipalities, they're able to speak out. They're able to have a voice and a vote. But Mount Vernon people, oh no. Everything is concealed. There's no transparency. Mount Vernon doesn't have a voice. You take whatever the dictators say you can have. And that's nothing currently. You have no services. The city is burning down. People cannot live the way they want to in the city of Mount Vernon because of corruption. That's what's currently happening here. In order to change that, you have to get someone who won't make deals. Who won't make deals that don't benefit you. And that's corruption. That's what happens in the city of Mount Vernon. I'm not trying to bring all of my family members in the city of Mount Vernon. I'm not trying to hire everybody off of the street. I'm trying to get it right for the people of Mount Vernon who live here. And that takes good government. And that's what I possess for the people that live here. Thank you.
In my opening statement and one of the earlier statements, I said that one of the things that would be my priority was to restore the reputation and the trust of people in this city. But part of that comes, unfortunately, in the person that's leading. And people want to feel several things about that person. They want to feel that they have the experience to be able to do what they say they will do, that they have demonstrated the integrity to make those things happen. And they also have to be able to talk to people respectfully and with dignity. This city is very unique. Based on its size, it's very interesting that it's the 8th most densely populated city in the state. And yet it's not in the big 5 in terms of the amount of money that it receives in order for its benefit. But it has an awesome reputation because people who have lived here still think of themselves as being Mount Vernonites. This past couple of weeks was the anniversary for the class of '64. My sister and many of her friends came back to Mount Vernon, and all she wanted to talk about was how sad it was that Mount Vernon had changed so much. Well, some of that change has to do with leadership. It has to do with how people see us in the kind of relationships we develop and the deals that are made. And while I may not disagree with some of my colleagues about how we bring people here, what we promise them has to be in the best interest of this community. I have said, and a lot of the developers said, well, I can't support you because of your position on developing. Well, that's okay. That's all right, because my position on developing is not that we should not be developing. My position on developing is it should be smart developing. This is a city that was planned by John Stevens, and I keep reminding people that this is not a city that's a metropolis. And the people who come here are not looking for a city. They're looking for a town and a community. And that's what we have to help to restore.
On September 23rd, the Mount Vernon City Council voted 3-2 to push through the transfer of control of the Broad Street Municipal Garage to the Alexander Development Group for no cost, even though ADG at the time was delinquent on their taxes in the amount of $92,841. Please provide your perspective on this voting event and providing contracts and benefits to those in arrears on taxes owed, how this was handled, and what, as mayor, you would do differently.
As mayor, I would have never brought that type of development to the city council to be lead agency on in the first place. The city council does not know secret law. They do not know anything, they have no experience when it comes to development. So how the city council became lead agent on the building and the building, let me just say that, is beyond me. I asked the council members and told them and advised them, you are not qualified to take on this project. And the people said they didn't want it. As council people, our jobs is not to adhere to development or work for developers, it's to work for the people that live here. We had over 1,000 people that came to the city council time after time, pleading with the city council to not allow this development to take place because it would infringe upon their quality of life. I understood that. 4 members of the council besides myself did not. They went along with the developer time after time, the special permit, the secret, lead agency, till the developer got the 16-story building. That is not what council people are supposed to do. You are supposed to worry about and take care of and protect the quality of life of the residents who live here. That was the first step before we got to the garage. I knew it would lead to something, and that's where it went. To a garage where we had 400 parking spaces, a little over 400 parking spaces, to 500 that they proposed today in that parking facility. Too much. We cannot, on that small corner, deal with the traffic. No one can deal with the traffic there. So for the city council to first allow the developer to build the 16-story building with over 400 units there, more kids to come into our school system, that would raise our taxes. More people on that small block. It's too much. It didn't have to happen, but it did, because the quality of life was not adhered to from our city council members. One that sits here with me today, Councilman Thomas. People did not have to have it. If we decided to do the right thing, we wouldn't have to worry about the garage today, because now they're trying to give air rights to the garage. What's going to happen there? Another building? More taxes, more school children? We can't afford it. Thank you.
There were aspects of the argument that you just heard that I totally disagree with. Having served on the city council in Mount Vernon for 7 years, this is not the first building we've ever built. And the city council has always taken an active role in whatever was developed in this city. What the problem is that there is the lack of education of the city council about these projects. There is not the openness that needs to happen so that the questions that they need to have answered get answered. They don't get the right information. And they've complained about that. But that's a legitimate complaint. It's legitimate because they have a responsibility at the Board of Estimates to vote on it. And people are shaking their heads, but you know, the difficulty is in this city, there's so few people that are really engaged that they don't even know what the city council is supposed to do. And they get confused because they get conflicting comments from members of the council itself, because they don't know. You know, I heard one of the council members say they didn't know when the Board of Estimate met. I was amazed. I was amazed because it tells me that in a period of time when you are on, whether you're on the council, on the Senate, on the County Board of Legislators, the first thing you learn. And it's not where the executive bathroom is or get a key to the executive bathroom, but you learn how the process works. And who, and when there are projects to be developed, you are responsible to ask the questions. And people used to criticize the council that I was on because we'd stay there till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. But the reason that we did was because we made sure that we knew everything that we could know about every project that was going to be built. And you forget, you're talking about a 16-story building. We built the complex on Sanford Boulevard. We worked against some odds when Pelham kept us in court for almost 2 years and put that project in jeopardy. But we knew everything about that project, and we also educated the public. Everybody who lived within a certain radius of that project, we met with them almost every night of the week to answer their questions. And we made sure that the developers satisfied to the degree that they could the answers that they needed. Plus, we made sure that our departments did a traffic study to protect the residents who lived in that community.
Transparency. I mean, with respect to what has been going on with 42 Broad Street and other items or aspects that appear on the council's agenda, transparency is a major challenge. I mean, you don't know the agenda until you show up, public I'm speaking about, until you show up to the meeting on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and even sometimes it's not even available until the meeting's about to start. So it's like, you know, you can't guess, you know, or show up guessing as to what's going to happen. And these items with respect to 42 Broad Street were always added at the last minute as an add-on. And it took some very careful, close attention to make sure that the public was aware by informed and engaged residents like John and Barbara and the whole association here tonight. So it took some engagement, and I believe that engagement is a much more effective tool than isolation, because when you have people that are informed, we can make better decisions. And when you do have that information presented in advance, you can make better decisions. So as mayor, I believe that we will make sure that we will put the information, or at least we'll put the resources behind the council and the city to make sure the information, the agenda, and all the items are online in advance so people can look at this stuff from, you know, their homes or their smartphones. We will make sure we invest the monies we receive from the utility companies to have a public access television so you can watch online or on the web, and you don't have to always come out in inclement weather or come out, period. You can just turn on the TV and watch and comment from afar. But when it comes to 42 Broad Street, I think it's very important to know that my position is very well documented. I oppose giving away the garage. I think it's a bad deal for Mount Vernon. It sets a bad precedent. Mount Vernon needs a parking authority. We need to make sure that we build that garage, we protect it. It has the capacity to fund itself. And if the city maintains control of that garage, we can extract higher rents from a developer that wants to build a building here. While we may not need, in some people's perspective, they may not want a building there. 16 stories is too high. I think 12 stories or lower is more appropriate because it's in proportion to the neighborhood. But at the end of the day, having a parking authority similar to White Plains and New Rochelle, Yonkers, we can make sure we have support for our businesses. We can have a new revenue stream for the city, and we can maintain affordable parking for our aging population and even just families. But when you look around and you see White Plains get $26 million from its parking operations, and Mount Vernon only yield $17 million from sales tax and from our overall economy, that's a problem. So we need to support our small businesses with parking, and with respect to 42 Broad Street, it's a bad deal. We should keep our parking lot.
As mayor, how would you improve transparency, feedback, and accountability for each of the various departments to ensure the requests for repairs, documents, and maintenance are responded to and completed in a timely manner?
Many of you know I served as city council president twice during my 7 years on the city council. And I had the opportunity to sit in for the then mayor at some of the meetings. And it surprised me that the different departments would come and bring their reports and do a show and tell. City's not about a show and tell. The city is about how does the planning department work with each of the agencies to ensure that there is synergy that happens between those agencies. Let me give you an example. I had some capital development money and I came to the city and I went to the planning commissioner and said to him, give me your wish list of the things that you need for the city of Mount Vernon. Well, I need to tell you that his list was very different from the mayor's. It boggled my mind too. Because if you're the planning person, and I'm sitting with you and the other agencies that are going to be responsible for capital development in the city, I would think that you would be the people who would know and would be advising. Doesn't work, it didn't work that way, doesn't work that way. Transparency is a word, it's a new fancy word, but it just means openness and honesty. And I just described to you how, when I sat on the city council, the kinds of things that we did to ensure that all the residents knew about the projects that were coming to their city. As the mayor, these are things that I would ensure. And having an open door policy 1 day a week sounds nice, but if you don't allow people to really come and advise about how they feel about communities, who needs an open door? And if you have to sit out there for 20, 30, 40 minutes when you have an appointment, and then other people come and you get passed over, and community people just go away, how is that an open door policy? Transparency is really about how can people see what's going on, have a voice, and participate. That's what real transparency is. And it's not about whether I tell you that there's going to be a project after I've already put the project in motion. It is a discussion with all of your zoning boards and your planning boards and all of the people who are responsible, and you don't strong-arm them after they advise you against certain projects. Accept the advice of the people that you hire and that you appoint to give you the advice that they are the experts in.
So, you know, with respect to transparency, you know, I mentioned it before, public access television, you have to have access to the information. If you want to research decisions made at the county, you can go on their website, you can watch videos from meetings going back 4 or 5 years, you can pull the minutes in advance. Same thing with New York City and even Yonkers and New Rochelle. They have access to information. You can participate. So as mayor, I'm looking to take a different approach to ensure that neighborhoods are engaged and empowered. We can craft a budget that is based on your participation, and we can show you resources that we would want to dedicate to your neighborhood, making sure that you see the money that we have allocated, and you can track and follow when those resources are expended. And every 90 days, I will make sure as mayor, my commissioners and their deputies will come out into the public, traveling around town, having a public forum, engaging you, using forums like this to show you where we were, where we are, what worked, what didn't work, and how we're going to move forward. And every 90 days, we have to have that dialogue because it's going to be very important. You know that the decisions we make, the resources we allocate, we are going to try and make a big difference for you. Now, I'll give you an example, a very specific example of how the current budget is failing Mount Vernon, and it can work for us next year. So as this administration, the Davis administration, designs a budget, I'm going to appeal to all of you to get involved. Right now, the allocation for the roads crew, the people that are supposed to help the potholes in the city, is terribly low. We should have a budget that has about at least $2 million to $5 million set aside to make sure that the monies are put into the roads. We receive about $3 million a year from the state alone, but that money doesn't seem to be, distributed equitably. So these are things we have to make sure that our road crew has the resources it needs to resurface in-house. And as Con Edison is ripping up the roads, we should be looking at our sewers, looking at how we can make these repairs strategically. But when you have a budget that doesn't put money behind just routine maintenance, you're going to have things continue to fall apart. So as mayor, I'm going to coordinate, and I'm going to make sure that our architect review board, our planning board also has support, because there are businesses, small businesses in this community that want to invest in their business. And when you have a committee or a commission cancel a meeting and it results in $15 million being delayed of being invested in our community, that's a problem. So as mayor, we're going to make sure that you have access to the information, we use the resources we have more responsibly, and we make smarter decisions just by simply working in a coordinated fashion.
Some of the candidates talked about transparency. Transparency is key. But Senator Thompson said it's openness and honesty. That's transparency to her. Well, it was never provided by her when she brought in the 20 red light cameras. At our last debate, our Senator Ruth Thompson told us that the people asked for the 20 red light cameras, when in fact the mayor puts in the request for the red light cameras in Mount Vernon. So is that transparency? No, it's not. We talk about the Sanford Boulevard development that our senator had. She was a council person, she was involved in it. Where was the transparency in telling us that they weren't going to pay any taxes? What happened then? Where was the openness and honesty then? We talk about Councilman Thomas. He cares about lower taxes, but voted to increase it year after year with Mayor Davis. Is that openness and honesty? No, it isn't. Openness and honesty is telling the people of Mount Vernon what they need, having meetings to inform them of what's going on in the city, and working for the people, not having them coming in to do your job, but to work for the people of Mount Vernon that are paying you the salary so that they have a better quality of life. That's openness and honesty. That's transparency. Not allowing our money to be abused by city government. That's what I call good government. That's what we need in Mount Vernon. We've become a poor community because we're paying too much. And when we talk about development, all of this development in Mount Vernon, economic development, any development right now that's not paying is not needed. Don't come into Mount Vernon. If you're not going to pay your fair share of taxes, we don't need you. We need to fix what we currently have. We are a decaying city. Our seniors are losing their homes. What is happening to us? If we don't band together as a community and get it right this time, we won't have another opportunity. I possess financial skills to reduce the taxes, business skills to fix our deteriorating infrastructure. I have owned businesses and run businesses for Fortune 500 companies. I know how to run the day-to-day operations in Mount Vernon. The people that are sitting here with me that want to run for mayor don't possess those skills. Yes, they were legislators, but have they done the right thing for Mount Vernon as legislators? I go back to the tax cap at the state, the 2%. Why didn't you come and fight with me as I was fighting with the council to have it for Mount Vernon? Where were you then? We need help, and I can provide that to Mount Vernon. Please vote for me in November.
We're going to move to closing remarks.
Again, Mr. Plotty, I'd want to take a moment to thank you and the Fleetwood Society for inviting us and for having this debate, this forum, actually. I think that you've heard a lot tonight, some of which you may have known, some of which you may not have known. But I would like to hope that you come away tonight with some answers to some of the things that have been plaguing you. More importantly, though, I think that we need to be assured that when we look at who we're asking to lead the city, we need to do so with an eye toward experience. Credentials are very important, but you have to be very careful because credentials are not the same as experience. And when people talk about they have credentials in a particular area, actually those are the areas that you're supposed to hire, because you're supposed to be providing leadership. That's what the mayor does. And I think that part of what has happened too often in our community is that we've found our former mayors who did not really have administrative experience. They didn't. Had never balanced a budget, had never had over 5 employees that they supervised. I mean, these are things that when you look at a mayor, you get caught up again in the messenger. You miss the message. And the message is, you need experience because your city is in a crisis. And while I think that certainly credentials are very, very important, they need to be in the area of need of this community. November 3rd, you have an opportunity to choose experience that's been there and done it.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming out this evening. I stated when I spoke each and every time that I possess experience to run this city. Experience is needed in order to have the right people in place. I have a team of experts coming to Mount Vernon. Oh, we indeed intend to get this city on the right path. It's not about wanting to do something. It's not about just talking. It's about being able to do the work. The mayor prepares the budget. That's who sits to the table with his people. And they come together to say what is in the best interest of the people of Mount Vernon. You just don't hire somebody off of the street to say, these are the people's needs. I come from city council 4 years fighting for the quality of life for the people who live here, fighting for the tax cap that we deserve. Other municipalities have it. Why don't Mount Vernon? We don't have to cut vital services. Just cut the fat. Provide transparency. Make sure that we have working departments within City Hall. I come with a business development team. It's not just Deborah that's standing here. Yes, the people will elect me as their mayor to bring in a team that's going to do the best thing for Mount Vernon and work in the best interest for the people who live here. I possess good government. I am honest. I do possess integrity. That's who I am. I'm Deborah Reynolds. Born and raised in the city of Mount Vernon, I care for the people here. I will do the right thing for the people. I will not turn my back. I will not make deals behind them. Open meetings, transparency, do the job. Thank you.
I was born and raised in Mount Vernon, and I have a family that's growing on both ends of the spectrum. Last week, my wife gave birth to our second child, a baby girl, and having been born, thank you. Having been born in Mount Vernon Hospital, not being able to see families from Mount Vernon have the opportunity to have their families grow and be born in this city goes to show you how far we have drifted from our core value of supporting our families. And, if you want experience of, people getting nothing done, then I'm not your candidate. I can tell you unequivocally that I've been in government, I've been involved with budgets. I left my job as an energy executive to make sure that this city has a brighter future, and I'm glad that I won the endorsement of the police, fire, building and construction trades, including our local DPW here in the city of Mount Vernon. I'm proud to have put together a coalition of stakeholders in this city, because it's going to take a coalition of us to put back our city together, to make sure that we realize our potential. And yes, there's been a lot of talk over the years, and if you want, more talk, then again, I'm not your candidate. I'm about action. I'm about consensus, and I believe that when you focus, you roll up your sleeves and you work hard, you put your credentials to work, and just don't propose stuff that doesn't even pass one house of the Senate, I can tell you unequivocally that we have an amazing opportunity to make Mount Vernon great again. And as your mayor, I hope that we can work together. I look forward to working with my colleagues on the council. And Marcus and I may have had disagreements in the past, but he and I talk frequently. And I can tell you unequivocally that I look forward to working with him because he too believes in this city. And I can tell you that as your next mayor, I look forward to putting all the plans we have to protect our seniors, engage these high taxes, turn around our school district with our schools. We can make our city great again. And I hope you vote Richard Thomas on Tuesday, November 3rd.